Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, joined by the boys. We've got Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, and what an exciting weekend. My only regret, or my only sad negative point, is that we didn't get more games because, good gosh, the energy was exciting. But before I even get into that, guys, how are y'all doing? Give us an update on what's going on with life, anything new. Just how y'all doing, man? Miss y'all.
Yeah, my boss is on paternity leave, so I'm covering for him. I'm looking forward to that. And I bought a 14-foot tall ladder for my loft. So if you see behind me, above that is a loft, and I didn't know that there were ladders that tall, but there are. So it's basically like a barn house one. So
How did you get up there without the ladder in the first place?
I've never been up there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I have a friend staying over for over a week next week, so I needed to give him, like, it's just like a nice private space. It's almost like another room.
Sure. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that you weren't able to get up on there until now. You're doing big things, man. You're adulting.
I can get up there if I, like, vault myself up, but the problem is I can't get down safely. So.
I really want to see Kevin just pull like a parkour Spider-Man getting up there. I could totally
I'm
see
really
it.
good at climbing, so that's one thing I'm
Nice.
surprisingly good at.
Cool,
climbing
man.
stream.
Yeah.
When?
Climbing stream. I love
I
it.
was really good. After COVID, I don't know. I'm probably a little heavy.
I hear you. I think we all got some of that COVID weight. Alistair, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good. Pretty uneventful week, except for yesterday. Finally got to win our league that we played in.
Nice.
After
Congrats,
coming
man.
so close so many times.
Nice.
We don't need a Alistair's trophy case subreddit like we did for Jensen.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I'm proud of you, Alistair. Nice.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, I tuned in for a brief second, and honestly, the second I tuned in, like, Alistair, he was 1v5 at Baron. He just stole the Baron, got a pentakill, and then backdoored the Nexus to win Game 5, and then Faker shook his hand at the end. It was really crazy. It was a really exciting Game 5 of a 4-game series.
Yeah, that Game 5 4 games.
Just kidding. But yeah, just to allude what we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
But my weekend was pretty good. I can't believe this weekend actually happened. It was just like surreal, the whole experience.
Right.
But then personal life, I quit my job, so I'm currently unemployed.
Wait, is that nice, or I'm just saying nice? Is that something that was planned, or
Yeah, it's intentional.
Nice. Good.
Making
Okay.
a bit of a career shift. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's my life right now. I woke up at like 2 p.m. today. Woo.
Exciting. Hey, that means for the time being, we should be able to play a little more ARAM together, right? Is that what we're doing?
Wake up. Yeah.
Come on, man. Wake up, man. I need somebody to play with. Okay. Well, let's go into this weekend because I did not expect this. EG taking the whole thing and the way that they did it. I mean, I think just the energy, the fact that it was in the stadium, it was so much just crowd noise, and you could just sense the hype energy going through that whole place. And honestly, I think with EG winning, people are talking all sorts of things about the landscape of League now. How will teams, build up rosters from now? And is the old way kind of gone of just buying people, and now we should train up rookies? So before we get into any of that deep stuff, just overall, how did you guys feel? Because what a weekend. I know for me, it was just amazing.
I felt super excited. There was a bunch of esports going on, but just for League specifically, I was like, holy cow, there was just so much energy in all the games. Like, usually the losers final isn't as exciting as the final, but like, honestly, I felt the losers final was like more hype. I think the crowd was really into it. I'm so glad that this was the first in-person tournament we had back in NA. We really, really needed this.
Yes, absolutely.
Honestly, for me, it was kind of bittersweet. I was a bit disappointed. You
were the one that wanted EG to win the whole thing.
No,
what are you talking?
Did no? Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm happy about that. I was
Can't make Alistar fully happy.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
I was just disappointed because it felt like the other two teams didn't show up.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can agree with that sentiment. I definitely think 100 Thieves did not show up like at all.
No.
Like 0% showed up.
Yeah.
TL, honestly, I feel like they're a mental boom maybe after certain events happened in Game 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the weekend for me was just like kind of magical. I think other
Yeah.
people kind of talked about it too. It's like first in-person events for North America,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a breath of fresh air. It's a new generation of like EG, first time winning. The entered franchise, they've never really gotten very far. I don't think they've ever
Mm-hmm.
made top three until this weekend.
Yep.
And three North American players giga stomping are two teams who have zero North American players. I mean, there's a lot of players that have been in North America for a long time, but
Mm-hmm.
literally none of them were born in North America.
Yeah.
Um, so what a testament. Um, yeah, it just felt like honestly, like EG had five fakers, and they were just all freaking nuts and
Yeah.
smurfing on everybody. And TL and 100 Thieves they just could not even remotely compete. The crowd was
Yeah.
on EG's side, and the amount of energy and power that gives you. I mean, it's just not something you can quantify, right? That
You're
kind of
right.
energy.
It is
So,
definitely not like a scientific thing that you can put on it. But I mean, I even heard on the JLXP that, Jat had heard that Danny was super nervous going into game one against TL. And then, that whole pentakill, which you'll break down in a minute, that happened and the energy just seemed to shift. And from then on, it seemed like they got their swagger because they played like they were just ready to dumpster on everyone. The fact that JoJo kept talking crap and was tweeting things to Fudge, like sending you back to top lane, and then that actually looking like it might be a reality. And the fact that right after they won, he's like, all right, about to, crap on everyone in MSI now or something like that. Like, I loved it. To me, him and Danny are like the new double lift and double lift. I don't know, just actually double lift and Bjergsen, but role reverse because JoJo is like the double lift trash talker, and then you got Danny just kind of smiling all the time, always got a good energy about him, and then just destroying on the riff. So, but I want to talk about them a little bit more because this was so kind of unexpected, and I want to spotlight, of course, my boy. I've been talking about him for a while. That's Danny, y'all. I mean, I know you guys have agreed and said that he's good too, but I can't tell you. I don't know if I can really elaborate as to how much I'm hype on this guy right now. Like the fact that he went from like kind of being targeted from the community because of this whole he didn't play champs queue kind of thing, even though that wasn't really fair to him, to like completely having the fans on his side and on his back. Honestly, it may be just be the Reddit minority just, being poopers. And actually the real sentiment is that, yeah, this kid can play. So let's start off by talking about Danny, and then Mitchell, when it gets to you, man, you could go ahead and unload on that pentakill. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, you got to check out game one.
Go watch it.
Yeah,
Pause
go
it,
watch
pause,
it. Yeah, pause.
Watch it and come back.
Watch the whole weekend, honestly. So, all right, if you're still here with us, let's talk about Danny a little bit and give us your thoughts on him.
Yeah, I think that Danny had an amazing weekend. Like we were always talking about how one of the biggest concerns for EG, or at least I was talking about, was that they haven't been on stage. And if they've been on stage, they haven't been on stage in front of an audience, especially not in an NFL stadium with tens of thousands of people attending, right? Like that's just a different type of energy. Like the ground literally shakes when you make a play or you get that first kill. Like that is nerve-wracking for some people. And while Danny did say he was nervous, I think he really showed up. And I'm not just talking about like that one infamous play, right? I'm talking about like in general throughout the six games he played at it. In my opinion, he played like at a level that's like Double If has done in a few finals before, and like very few other AD carries have gotten that high level of clutch, right? Like Zen was always good during the regular season, but you never saw a performance like that in a best of five, even when like C9 was doing well, right? So I think that's really impressive. I will say that we do need to not forget the fact that they lost laning phase almost every game.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's no surprise though, right?
Yes, but dying almost every game against 100 Thieves and then duking on them afterwards. Like, it's really weird. I'm a little concerned in that sense, but I think that they found their identity. It's basically a mini Uzi comp. He's literally NA Uzi in terms of the comp. Everything's built around him. He gets his Ornn, he gets his peel. Everyone's babying him up. They're literally hitting the S key so he can get last hits on kills. Like, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that they had an identity and they finally punished 100 Thieves for being absolute crap after their early games. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think his stock definitely went up. I'm personally, though, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I kind of lost some personally for him just because of the early few minutes of almost every game. I think he is very good at punishing his others' mistakes, and I think he's really good at knowing what his champions do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're gonna die at level 2 and miss 2 waves under tower, that is game over in other regions. It's just over. I have a hard time. Don't get me wrong. He played very well, and his team played very well around him. And once I do think he will clean up his early game, because I think it's pretty clear that's what he needs to focus on. Once he does do that, he really will be a menace.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he can break the threshold into top 280 carry with Berserker and Hansama until he can clean up that first 5 minutes of the game, because that will hold him back.
That's
I
fair.
will say before Mitchell's long segment, I will say that Hansama played worse this weekend for sure.
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
Danny and
Yeah.
probably than Berserker in playoffs. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Hansama did not really show up at
Berserker
all.
didn't play playoffs.
yeah,
Yeah, that's true. He didn't get to play.
playoffs.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to play.
Yeah.
We could have signed Berserker's seat. It would have looked very similar. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to talk about, a certain event happens for Danny that is really catapulting this entire discussion, and catapulted the entire 6-0.
Yeah.
Was the pentakill, right?
Yep.
So Danny, it's 28 minutes and 55 seconds or something, and TL's taking Baron. They're all incredibly low, and Danny comes up with Vulcan 2v5, steals the Baron due to a smite from Santorin missing, and gets a 1v. This is 2v5 pentakill and wins the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the most common sentiment being talked about is how it ticks 29 minutes and the Baron levels up and it gains 180 HP, which makes Santorin miss the smite. But actually, if you look at it, right? So people have screenshots of it showing 895 HP, which is smiteable, right?
Yep.
So you can't smite it at 895, but it also regens due to natural Baron regen that ticks every approximately 2.5 seconds. It's HP per 5 regen. It ticks from 895 to 903, which is 13 HP. So Santorin smiting at 908 HP when he actually does get the smite off. All right, let me just start over again. Let's pretend that the 29-minute mark is not there. Let's rewind it 5 seconds so that we don't have to worry about the Baron leveling up. If Santorin smites when he does smite, he smites it at 908. But then he actually ends up doing 33 more damage. Team Liquid or his auto attacks, they do 33 more damage. So he does smite early, but he would not have gotten punished because he does an additional 30 damage, and he would have secured the Baron in this situation if the Baron had not leveled up. So in this exact situation, actually Santorin would have gotten the smite, and Danny would not have been able to steal the pentakill if it wasn't turning 29 minutes. So that's pretty crazy to think about.
So it was the timing of the whole thing that just happened to be such a coincidence.
There was a lot of very small factors that made this happen.
So
Play
that's
almost
an
never happens if we do it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have happened, to be fair.
It shouldn't have happened, right? Because the 29-minute, the level up actually does make it so Danny steals the pentakill. Steals the Baron and gets the pentakill.
Yeah.
So for Santorin's side, that is unfortunate. But if you kind of think about it philosophically, though, right? If you do the math and all players should know feeling how much damage Jinx does at any point in the game.
Oh, yeah.
She's been played all split long, right? The most that Jinx could do at this point in the game is, if you have 0 armor, is do a 600 damage rocket crit. So if Baron has 0 armor, which it doesn't, the most one auto could do is 600 damage from Jinx. So by that philosophy, since the enemy jungler is dead, Santorin should never try to smite at 900. Even if it says 895, taking into account natural Baron regen that is constantly happening every 2.5 seconds, you should never smite at 895. It's just wrong when there's not another smite. So philosophically, for jungler smiting, Santorin played it wrong. Just smite at 850, 800, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The rest of Team Liquid should be holding abilities to also kill the Baron at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But there's literally no threat. It was a mistake on Team Liquid and Santorin's part to let that happen. Because regardless of the level up, the philosophy of Santorin's smite was wrong. So it's
I definitely get what you're saying. Because in that specific situation, it was unfortunate, but also he still smited it wrong. As his thought process goes. I think in that situation, like, I know it's like so detailed and nitpicky, like who's fault. I chalk this up to like, dude, it's a finals game. It's in a stadium. It's nervous. You're probably not like, and this is what marks a good player, to be able to be clear-headed enough to know all of that and to think about that at that exact moment when it's just this close. Jinx is up. I mean, this is going to be a pivotal moment, and the worst possible thing happens. But I guarantee you, I think at that point, I'm sure, because they're veterans, there is a little bit of calm there, but honestly, the energy and the pressure is so high. Who knows what's going on in his mind during that point, because it is such a critical moment.
Yeah, I definitely think that, the pressure's on him, right? The energy is really loud. It's hard to think completely clearly, but it's hard not to fault Santorin when you've been a jungler for almost 7 years now, and this is a natural thing that almost any jungler kind of knows. If there's no enemy smite, and you already saw Jinx Rocket whiff maybe 20 seconds earlier, there's no reason to smite that early. You see junglers all the time when there's no enemy smite at 700, smite at 800, because they know it's actually the only way they don't get it stolen. Right? Going for that perfect 900 smite is just asking to get it stolen by a random ability. So it's hard not to fault Santorin, I think, in this situation. Regardless of the community sentiment, I think breaking it down to the facts, knowing that Baron regens every 2.5 seconds throughout the entire game, right? Disregarding the knowledge of knowing that the level up is every on the minute, it was wrong philosophically. Yeah, how to play it. And it lost them the whole weekend.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, however way you want to cut it, should Baron regen when it's below 3,000 health? No, probably not.
Yeah.
Should it level up while in combat below 3,000 health? No, probably not. Should Santorin smite when it's the only way it can get stolen? 100% not.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have us sit here and we're just shit talking Santorin the entire time, because it happens to the best of us. But he screwed up, and he knows that. And however way you want to cut it, it is still on Santorin smiting that early.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna cut in and say that as a jungle main myself and who's played in tournaments, like I don't necessarily think it's Santorin's fault per se. I mean, obviously, like, he literally caused it to go. So if you're saying causality wise, yes, it's his fault. But like, if you've ever played the game, every jungler also knows how to Q smite or whatever their combo is. Hold an auto on Graves, an auto smite. And if you see it go to 895, yes, we can say we know Jinx only does 600. But you have 4 other guys there who are about to hit it. If anyone randomly hits it, doesn't time it well, like let's say Hansama accidentally autos, right? They're going to get it to 500 or 600 as well, because they're not getting the half debuff from being the tank on Baron. So if you see it in the frame, in your mind, you see 895, you just time your auto smite, your Q smite, whatever character you're playing, and even if it regens a tick of like 15 or 30 health or whatever, you're going to kill it. You're not going to do less than 30 damage, right? Which Mitchell started it out by saying. So like, in that scenario, that's totally fine. He just didn't factor in the level up. And for anyone who's saying like, as a pro jungler, you should know when it levels, he probably does know when it levels up every minute or whatever. However, he's not going to be looking at the top right of the clock, looking at the health bar, and telling his team to hold DPS for that at the same time. He can only do like, realistically, he can only do 2 of the 3. So in my mind, like, it is his fault, but I think that most junglers make that mistake there. I think that if you're in that pressure, you're not going to wait like that half second where someone like autos randomly or puts out their ability, their Q out, it does 300 damage, and then the crit smite does 600. Like, I've seen that as well, where like the crit literally just takes it, because in that frame that you're waiting for a perfect smite or like a comfortable smite, someone else just takes it. If you see it 895, you're gonna hit F or D on instinct. Is my take on it. That's what I've always done as a jungler, and I've stolen plenty of Barons. I also play Eve, so it's the easy.
I mean, I think it's been kind of debunked that it's easy to hit your smite, because again, there are a lot of plays, but this is also what makes these games exciting, because there is a little bit of like just randomness involved. Like, I don't think, even if you calculated everything perfectly, I do think like with everything that's happening, like in the moment, like that's why you play the games out, right? And I think those things happen. And I don't honestly, like, if we're talking about, because we are leaning towards like this almost sounds like this is the reason Team Liquid lost, right? But it was a play that catapulted, which then seemed to change the momentum, and then TL, still continued to lose. It wasn't the only factor here, right? Like, and so we could talk a little bit about TL since we're kind of segueing into this moment naturally. But, as a Team Liquid fan, and I know Kevin's one, I know I was pretty bummed. I don't know what was going on. It honestly felt like our team looked super lost. But beyond this, like, even if he doesn't steal the Baron, like, maybe Jinx still gets a penta. I don't know. Like, all these things could have happened. All I know is that, well, I mean, either way, like, what I'm trying to say is that it's not necessarily just on that one play. I think that play enabled the momentum shift and maybe the confidence and the energy in EG to then play like 5 fakers. But I don't think that was the only problem. I mean, obviously we'll get to that, and that's what I want you guys to lead off with. Like, what do you think it was? What, if you're watching in the eye test, what do you think the problems were with Team Liquid? And I'll just leave it at that and see what you guys say.
I would like to cut in really quick that I have this thought that I'm pretty sure if Danny doesn't steal that pentakill or doesn't steal the Baron, not only does he not get a pentakill, but Team Liquid is still in a really good spot to win that game and potentially still have a chance in the series, because Danny actually goes down to almost under 100 HP. He would have died if he didn't level up and get the reset from killing Baron, and also
the speed up too.
He would have taken more damage. He would have had less health and resistances from the leveling up. I think he would have died.
100% would have died.
He maybe kills 3-4 people. I don't know, 2 people, right? But there's also Corja J. He doesn't use his Renata W on Xayah. If he uses Renata W on Hansama too, maybe, and he doesn't steal Baron. Like, all these things kind of need to like match up, right? But like, if everything plays correctly and Jinx doesn't steal Baron and Corja J uses his W properly, I think maybe they just kill like 1 or 2 people, and honestly, TL probably takes the series, or not the series, the game, because they get Baron and they're on soul points. So and
they were already pretty. I believe they were ahead at that point too. So
they were very ahead.
I definitely think, and they just technically kind of quote unquote won that fight. That's why they were taking Baron in the first place. So it really looked like that was going to happen. And I think this is one of those things, because we are really going down deep on this moment, because, and I think rightfully so. Like, I don't want to say that we're going off a tangent for no reason. I think this play will be analyzed for a long time. I mean, Danny is now, and unfortunately Santorin and Team Liquid are in this capsulated moment that's going to be talked about for however long this game keeps going, because that is definitely one of the top moments ever in, I think, LCS history, let alone a final, or a finals weekend, semifinal game. Like, it is incredible. And so I think that it's appropriate that we went this deep into it. And so let me bring it back now to the Team Liquid thing, because, there were obviously a lot of, that was a big, noticeable, like, unfortunate moment, but there were a lot of things that happened and were results of them losing. So, Kevin, as a fellow Team Liquid fan, please, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this. Okay, so let's go down the list. Like, first
He's
of all,
ready.
I think Liquid played really well in Game 1. I think that they played the execution well. They messed that play, and that's how they lost, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Game 2, I think that they played too fancy. They tried to go for too fancy of a comp. SRA hasn't seen him forever, and yeah, it worked early game. Like, Danny was like 1 CS to 15 under tower, and then they get a kill and they throw it all away. They throw it away in a 4v4 skirmish against like Yasuo, Diana, and Jinx. I was just like, I'm like, you're just asking for Jinx to reset. If you mess up a little bit, this is auto over, right? And if you don't get the catch onto Jinx, it's really scary. And they didn't. They got it onto Tom instead. So yeah, I think that was terrible. Let's get into the players real quick. So Bwipo had an awful series. His scoreline wasn't like Summit bad, but Bwipo had an awful series.
It was very bad.
Was reasonably good, but every other game, like, his Ornn play just felt extremely bad. His Shen didn't work in the previous series. I don't know why he thought this was like. I'm sorry to think like Bwipo played. If he's lucky that Summit played in this playoffs. That's all I'm gonna say. He played less impactful than Kumo did in the last couple games, and that's really a far cry from the MVP of the early season, right? I think Santorin was fine. I think Bjergsen played pretty poorly, actually. I think Bjergsen's build, especially on Corki, were
what is he doing?
He doesn't know what he's doing on it. Vine Sunder, was it? Like,
yeah.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe he built Sunder. Like, they were getting so much poke that game, and it was doing nothing. And I was like, what's going
No.
on? And then I look at his build. I'm like, oh my god, he thinks that's the answer to Ornn. Oh my god, end it all.
He did it last series too. This is not the first time he did it.
Last year he went crit. He went the
Yeah, that's true.
shield boat version, which is like, again, that there's some merit to it, but like in how he was actually playing was poke Corki. So I was like, okay, I have no idea what you're doing. If you're not autoing that much, you're not getting the space auto that much, and you're not playing as if you're an 80k, right?
Yeah.
I think Core had a slightly off series. I don't think he was playing amazing, but he was playing fine. And I think Hansama was playing bad. I think he got caught out more times in this one series than he did pretty much all playoffs, especially, and maybe even most of the split. So there were a lot of people missing. I think they mentally tilted, but at the same time, I think that, like, especially for Bjergsen and Whipple, like, these guys are like superstars, right? They're not just like veterans. Like, Hansama is a veteran, but they've won so many. Whipple and Bjergsen have won so many cups, right? They've actually got it past the finish line. So I was especially disappointed that them as a combo just like looked so weak for solo lanes. They looked weaker than JoJo. They looked weaker than definitely Impact and some
For sure.
and
yeah.
maybe not Abadage, but at least somewhat.
Yeah.
I don't know. My biggest complaint about the series, they picked Zyra. I tilted off of seeing a Zyra pick, dude. I was so done with that point. That champion's not good. I hate whenever I see someone pick it. Zyra has not been good since season 7. Whenever Misfortune was picked as a counter into it because it was really high prio.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that really hurt. I also really didn't like the prio on TF from either team, if you want to be honest. I think it was played well in game 3. But then the answer into it with Silas, I don't think it's a very good answer. I just think there was a lot of issues around the mid lane, especially obviously Bwipo, not his best series. I don't know. I think TL played well in game 1, and like we said, they played well in game 1. Then after that steal, it was just kind of mentally over.
Yeah, to comment on the players, well, to echo some of Kevin's sentiments, I was exceptionally disappointed with Bjergsen and Hansama. I think Bwipo, all right, he didn't have a great series, but he was at least weak side, right? At least he was weak side.
True.
And you know what? Honestly, I think, like, sure, game 1 it looked good, but God, did he screw himself over by taking Ignite top? Like, he took Ignite top on Shen, and he got out traded. And then when he had to reset, he just goes down 40 CS because he doesn't have TP to walk back to lane. And as soon as he gets back to lane, he gets chunked again in Dove, right? This would all have been fixed if he just went TP. And the series, or the first game at least, right, could have looked so different because it actually started with EG getting ahead, and then Team Liquid, comp-wise, they finally got their items on their carries, kind of bringing it back. But how different would that series have looked if maybe they had never fallen behind at all, right? So I think that was quite disappointing just in game 1 particularly. I think the builds, I don't know. Team Liquid is a multi-million-dollar company and they have analysts. There must be some reason why they think Divine Sunder or Corki is good, but it is mathematically without a doubt the least damage being build you can do on Corki. It's probably the tankiest, right? You probably have the most HP, you heal a little bit, but it is by far the least damaging build. There's no doubt about it, right? So I think if you are Bjergsen and you're opting into a low damage build, that just speaks to me as low confidence. And then finally, I mean, in his game 3, he could not land a Silas E. I think I counted in the entire game 3, he landed 2. I think he landed 2 Silas E's. He could not land one. He freaking Impact face checked him. He got a free Everfrost root, and he still missed his E on him. Yeah. It was so bad. That's like iron levels of bad. Not understanding how to play Silas. And then finally, I mean, Hansama, he played terribly. There was so many times on the Ashe game where there's no like Inspired, he's not flashing. He's sometimes not even Eing onto Ashe. He's actually walking up to Hansama and ulting. He's just walking up to him. He doesn't have phase rush. He doesn't have ghost or boots or anything. He's just kind of waltzing up in the middle of a team fight and pressing R on Hansama, and he dies instantly. That kind of positioning is like, you're just mental boom. You're like, I don't know why you are even auto attacking a Diana if she can EU, right?
Yeah.
So that is a clear misunderstanding. I think that. Oh yeah, Team Liquid underperformed so massively. I actually think Santorin, regardless of that smite, played the best of all the players on Team Liquid. I think he was the best player. So as much
Yeah.
as we want to harp on how bad that smite was and how bad that play was, I think for the rest of the series, Santorin was easily their best and most consistent player.
Yeah.
So I'm very worried actually about Team Liquid, just not in terms of like I think they can still make it to playoffs and make it to Worlds, but in terms of winning the championships, it does feel like in a lot of clutch moments, right? Game 3 against 100 Thieves, they almost swept them. Just started choking draft and choking their plays, right? They lose to a crazy pentakill, they start choking almost all their plays, burning 3 ultis to not even kill a Tom Kench and then to get wiped. These plays are also mental boom. So I am
I,
worried about Team Liquid in front of crowds, honestly.
I think here's my take on it, just from bits and pieces that I've heard around, and just in my own thinking. So I've always been touting that Team Liquid, I felt, has this roster in particular has a bunch of players who really think about this game. Like, I mean, Whippo always thinking about how can I do this. Bjergsen, we know, is very analytical, right? Core JJ obviously always thinking about the game. And Double Lift put out, I don't know how true this is either, but he said that actually Core and Bjerg's styles of playing and philosophies for playing are completely different. So one aspect could be maybe there's a difference of like opinions now, like where Bjerg has typically been, and we've even hinted at this when he was on TSM, right? Like, was it really a coaching problem or was it a Bjerg problem? And his macro playing's insisting on a certain way of this kind of scale up and do this and play it safe and whatever, never be in bad positioning, never take a risk. This whole game of like just play with the least mistakes and you win or something like that, right? Like that mentality apparently was clashing with like Core's wanting to make plays, be aggressive, make the proactive moves. So that's the first thing I'll say. And then the second, really, the thing is, I think they just outthought themselves. They outsmarted themselves. Like, I think, in the beginning, it was cool to see Bwipo picking these different picks, but then it felt like they kept trying to outdo that. Now come out with something else, try a different thing. They busted out Ash for a bit, and that worked. And then when the Ornn problem came about, I felt like, again, they like outsmarted themselves. Like when you could have just picked Aatrox, which worked for you so well, or you could pick other counters like, this Mordekaiser, or even, the GP if you think that's your counter for him. But instead they try to play with marksman, or like they're thinking too hard. And then this Ashe Zyra pick, like with like what are they doing? Like this did not look like a good draft at all. And then EG just picks Diana and Yasuo, and you're like, okay, that's pretty much screwed. And they had to execute that so perfectly for it to work. And in the beginning they were, but like, well, look, one lost fight and that whole lead is gone and you're pretty much out. So in my opinion, I think they just like thought too much, and that was to their detriment. So if I'm worried in a sense that if there's no clear direction where we're going to say, hey, we're all going to rally behind like Core, because that's what, seems to work, or whatever it is. If Bwipo's got something, there's got to be a central thing where everybody's like, okay, this is how we're going to play. And to contrast that with EG, yeah, they had some phenomenal moments and individual players playing well, but like you mentioned this earlier, they had a clear vision of how they wanted to play, and we saw that super evident. That's feed Danny and let him carry. And you could see that. They were giving him turrets, solo turret gold, like giving him those last kills. They wanted Danny to be the carry, and they played around that, and that was their whole identity. So, Kevin, were you going to say something? He had his finger up. I was like...
I think that, like, I think Liquid's going to stick together, first of all. I think that this is probably the wake-up call they'll need. I don't think this is the end of the roster. A lot of teams that peak in spring just don't do well at Worlds or in summer. And that's just kind of the history of winning in spring or doing well in spring or dominating in spring, unfortunately, in a lot of leagues. That being said, I do think that this is the kick in the butt they need to see, hey, we need to come up with our own style. We need to stop trying to be fancy and being like, world class. We can play everything. So watch us
Mm-hmm.
show all these looks, right? Because like in my opinion, even after they lost that fight in game 2 where they went down like 3-4 kills, they came back. Like I don't know if a lot of people on Reddit might have forgot, but like they came back. They were playing some like really clean fights and like starting to edge back and back. And then EG just kept forcing the issue with like their engage comp, which they knew exactly what to do. It's very simple to execute. And then Liquid couldn't play perfect for like 30 minutes straight. That was a 44-minute game, guys. So
Yeah.
I don't think it was over after one fight, and I don't think it was mental boom in that fight. Or in that game. I think it was mental boom in game 3,
Yes,
100%.
for sure.
You saw Whipple hitting walls
Yeah.
just randomly as he was trying to run away with Ornn on his E. So like, there's that. I also wanted to just put a thought experiment out there, just because I think Impact played the best on. I don't think Danny played the best. I think Impact played the best this weekend in the finals, at least,
I agree.
and in semis. I think if I just want to imagine a world where Liquid kept Impact and then just did all the other roster changes they did throughout the years.
I
Um,
know.
because they were in Game 5 last year for finals too,
Yeah.
or they played against some days 100 Thieves in finals as well in summer, right? Like there's just so much that Impact has just. We keep doubting him. We seriously, I don't know how many
I
times you
keep
can get
doubting
away
him.
with it.
Yeah, I keep doubting him, and
Like we'll
I'm
give
not
him some
anymore.
credit, right? Like we're
Yeah.
like playoffs Impact, haha, and then he just plays super well.
Yep.
Even when they lose, he plays well, and it's crazy. Like that Mordekaiser pick, we'll get into it later, but
Nuts.
holy moly! So
I
yeah,
mean, you
I
could
think
get
Liquid
into
will
it
stick
now
together.
because
Oh yeah, sure.
I mean that was a pretty spicy game. But let me let Mitchell go because I think he has got
Mhm.
something to jump in with.
Yes, I do. We were talking about EG versus Team Liquid, and I started thinking about Mordekaiser. So we can cut this. Hold on, let me think. Sorry.
Sorry.
Well, let's talk about the
No.
Mordecai. Oh, you got it?
Yeah. Okay. So I
He's
do
got
think
it.
that, like, yes, Team Liquid, they're gonna stick together, obviously, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I think a lot of what Doublelift, like League Dad, you were mentioning what Doublelift was kind of saying about
Yeah.
Bjerg versus Core JJ, and I do agree. Like, not maybe take everything Doublelift says with a grain of
Of
salt,
course,
but
Yeah.
absolutely.
like, because he's just kind of a personality right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I would say though is I see it definitely where Bjergsen has more of the give me 30 seconds to prepare for this play or tell me what's going to happen ahead of time and then I'll go.
Hmm.
Core is like I agree with Core's mentality, and he sees the game in I think the correct way, where it's you can't really play the game at a top level like that. You
Yeah.
see opportunities, and your timing of seeing the opportunity is incredibly small, and your
Yes.
ability to act on that opportunity is even smaller. So
That's
there's
right.
no amount of planning, there's no amount of anything. It's all instinct. If Corjuse says go, like here, I'm hooking, blah blah blah, go focus this person. Like I think the correct way for Team Liquid and for any team is if someone has that sort of eye for the game, which we know Core J is really good at that, is you just all jump on that bandwagon, right? I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure listening to Doublelift talk that's how the TL with Doublelift and Core J, that's how they played. That's how
Yeah.
their whole roster played. They see play, they go play, and they have confidence in their mechanics and in their team play that they're going to back each other up. And honestly, Team Liquid or 100 Thieves did not play like that, but EG definitely played like
Yeah.
that.
They did.
Do you think EG had a plan for half of those games? No, they had a plan maybe for their comp. All right, we're just gonna pick Jinx Ornn, Giga strong combo, right? You guys can dance around and pick all these counters,
Yeah.
Trundle, Braum, Shen, blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter, right? You can counter this crap all you want. Jinx Ornn was clearly the strongest combo on this patch. I mean, it's getting nerfed, right? Jinx is getting pretty hard nerfed with the HP nerfs, but like this was the strongest combo, and they were just getting it
Hmm.
every time. Like sometimes you just gotta go simple, pick what's OP, and just play the game. Like just go play the
And
game
and that's
like with
exactly
instincts.
what I felt EG had been doing in their drafts, like you were just saying, right? Like they were picking simple drafts. Okay, now they picked Ornn. Okay, well here's Impact's. I mean, people forgot about Impact's Mordekaiser, right? Like he could play this champion, and what a good pick that was, and he just totally dumpstered the Ornn there.
Someday,
So
yeah.
I mean, some days Ornn who had been really good at playing Ornn for the other series. So Kevin, I know you wanted to talk about Mordekaiser a little bit. Let me know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the Mordekaiser pick. Well, I don't think anyone has played Mordekaiser in like months and months, right?
Yeah.
I think into that matchup, into the Ornn, like I think it's the right pick. We were discussing about like like the super tanky one with the Frostfire and the Demonic, right? Or if we're just going the burst. Impact picked the burst, and he just ended up being a threat to everyone.
Yeah.
He absolutely gapped Sunday in that specific game.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because Sunday played worse by a lot per se, but I think he's just the confidence in the pick, and he made it work. I remember when Impact was playing for us in Liquid, like he was always good on that character, and it's just
Mhm.
ridiculous how well he played on it. I think that the Mordekaiser was really smart. I think that there is a very fine line with letting your players just pick what they think is best versus uh, picking what you guys think is the best for the comp, right? I don't necessarily think Mordekaiser was the best for the comp, but Impact was feeling it and he picked it. And honestly, if I have to give credit, like Liquid probably felt the same. Like Gilioto was a very good drafter back in the Immortal days, okay? But
Mhm.
he probably had a lot more say in what they were doing because they were just all underdogs. When you
Yeah.
have so many superstars who know exactly what they want to do and are super confident, right? There's a reason why we keep seeing Shen or like GP into these angles that like are really hard to execute on.
Yeah.
It's because he's confident. They're just confident they can do it, right? And so Gilio's like, all right, I trust you. I can't veto you that hard, right? Because
Yeah.
you are Bwipo, you are Bjergsen. So I'm glad that Impact can role play so well. I'm still happy to see that he's so good. Honestly, it's so sick that Impact and Faker are still playing at an
Yeah, it
international
is.
tournament against each other. And well, assuming we make it to Rumble stage, which we will, obviously, because we're winning MSI. But
Yeah, we're
so
winning
much
MSI.
so much credit
Yeah.
to him. I think he was the MVP, and honestly, if it weren't for the narratives, like Impact would have won. No, that's not necessarily true. But I think Danny played super well in those separate plays, but like Impact was always good, in my
I
opinion.
think I think it's hard
That's the
because
problem.
you said it earlier, Mitchell. They played like 5 fakers because honestly, like they all. I mean, again, the other teams didn't show up, yes, but I'd like to focus more on how well EG played because even Alistair, you mentioned that. Like, and I know that's what a lot of us, at least a lot of Redditors, like to do. A lot of people when they watch the games, instead of really celebrating the winner and focusing on it, we always tend to seem to pick apart the mistakes from the losing team, even some of the mistakes that with the winning team, like, yeah, this happened, but it shouldn't have done. So like I want to take a moment to just be like, EG, like they played like 5 fakers regardless of their opponents playing like dummies that day, right? And I think that's what makes it hard because Impact it seemed like smurfing every game that he was playing. Inspired, who hasn't been good at all this entire split, who looked like, really, like you were an MVP, what? Actually played like there's some truth to that. And then, with Danny, like, again, typical thing, with him dying in lane, and that needs to be worked on, yes. But I will say, imagine the pressure he's still got to take where the rest of the team's like, all right, dude, we're feeding you all these resources. You are literally our win condition. Like, don't mess it up, right? Because we're all sacking for you, essentially. And so, like, that to me, like, to see everybody kind of fill in their role, and that's what I mean by identity. Like, I see it more as like, yeah, they played through Danny, but the rest of them seem to play their role really, really well. And that's why I was so, even though my team lost, I was really excited and hyped for EG, and I still am.
I think when we talk about like this idea of like playing like 5 fakers, it's like, yo, faker dies in lane,
Yeah.
right? T1 they go down in gold all the time. But
Yep.
the thing that differentiates this like the mentality is like, yo, you guys can be up 5k, I can be like down so all the CS. I don't care if I get my
Yeah.
items and I'm on my champion, I'll just win the game. I
Yep.
really don't care what kind of comp you have, what kind of advantage you have, how good you think you are. EG just felt like they would come into fights that they were not favored to win and just win it anyways
Yep.
because they're just 5 fakers. They play every fight almost perfectly. They play with each other, right? The amount of actual mistakes that EG made were quite high, but they just turn it into a winning
That's
play
right.
because they have each other's backs.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the great thing about this team and a great thing that like so many teams fail to have is this like I like honestly when I think about Team Liquid against IG versus in 2019 at MSI, it was this sort of idea where they just kind of like bought into the IG sort of playstyle of just go fast, play hard, and they
Mm-hmm.
just did it better. Like that's what I think is what's gonna, you know, take us to the another level is
Yeah.
like you gotta stop overthinking, right? Get out of
Yeah.
your own head. Just play the freaking game. Just go fast, trust in your
Exactly.
mechanics, help each other out, and play like Faker. Because goddamn, does T1 they don't draft well. Right?
Yeah,
They don't
right.
draft well at all. They just beat you because they're better, and they don't give a crap about your comp or
Yeah.
your draft or your advantages in anything. So
Well, it
I
did
like
look
I like the
like
attitude.
I mean, EG more so than any of the other teams were playing as a unit. Like team
Yeah.
fights, everything just seemed like their communication was on point. Whereas with the other teams, there were definitely moments where there was a lot of disconnection going on. Like, okay, are they on the same page or not? And let's talk a little bit about 100 Thieves, because honestly, they were favored to win. In fact, I believe. I think it was Jat that said that he had, because I was listening to the previous episode before the finals weekend was coming up, and he was talking about his predictions. He felt that if EG beat Team Liquid, that 100 Thieves would beat EG. He thought that if Team Liquid beat EG, he thought Team Liquid would win the whole thing, right? Well, so he was kind of right, but he didn't expect EG to beat 100 Thieves, because 100 Thieves was so good coming into this series. And I just want to get your thoughts on them now, because, like it was a total non-show day for them when you're like, hello, this is the finals. Again, it bleeds into that. Is it actually a benefit that they don't play, the day before? Whereas EG, getting to play more games, is warmed up, getting used to the crowd already, had a day of experience before that. So let me know your thoughts on 100 Thieves. What do you think was going on there? What did you see?
100 Thieves was awful. Like,
Mm-hmm.
abjectly off. Like, objectively, not abject.
Yeah.
Objectively awful. Like, it was everything that we've ever been like. We sounded like 100 Thieves haters at multiple times, and in a lot of splits. Everything we've criticized them for. Like, finally, a coach sat down with his team, and they're like, let's just call them out on it. Like, they could
Mm-hmm.
they could go up 2-0 every game this playoffs, and we will make this the shortest series of all time in LCS playoffs. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's not just that it was the shortest. Like, sometimes you go all in and you just mess up, you die level, and something can happen, right? No, it was like the shortest, and like who he looked like awful. He looked like Winsome. FBI was 3-12-4. He had the
Yeah.
lowest KDA on his team. Like, and KDA is not everything, but like FBI did not look good either. Someday I think still looked fine, honestly. But there was like so many things just did not come together. They had
Mm-hmm.
leads in every game, as far as I can remember, and it just looked like they were always behind somehow. They came into those fights like absolute animals. I am glad that whatever version of 100 Thieves showed up that day, I'm glad that wasn't what was representing
Thank
us
goodness.
internationally.
Yeah.
Because like EG might get complete wiped, okay, guys. Like it is possible.
Sure.
I don't believe that, right? But it is possible. But at the very least, like it'd be exciting because it's just new faces going up against, getting this valuable experience, right? Getting solo queue in Korea for the first time, getting these scrims against top tier Chinese and Korean teams. So like that's great for NA. But like we've seen 100 Thieves, like they're decent, but they're just like they're not. They don't have the X factor needed internationally, and you saw it in this like whole series. Like, what were they doing?
Yeah.
This was awful in every sense. Like, I think the picks weren't even that bad. I just think they played like garbage.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's what I want to do, right? Actually, before. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know, Alistair. Maybe you talk about 100 Thieves.
Yeah, yeah.
And we go around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. Someone told them they woke up, went back in time as regular season. I
Ah!
don't know.
Got him.
Oh,
It-
they're already dead, man.
I don't know. I mean, we saw Huhi choking last week, and this week was not much better. I don't really have much else to say except I don't know. It spread. It felt like they were playing regular season, bro. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think this 100 Thieves has never won in front of a crowd, so I wouldn't be surprised if the crowd had a big effect. Honestly, I think the crowd is one of the biggest players that takes part in these series. If the crowd's against you, man, does that get to your mental? I feel like there are very few times where if a crowd is against a team, that team actually pulls it out and wins, right? It's so hard to win when a crowd is not cheering for you. It's really hard. And
Yeah.
I think everybody was on the EG train, right? Like, can you imagine being 100 Thieves going to a finals where literally everybody's against you? God, Team Liquid lost and everybody was on EG side. They literally picked up
Yeah.
every North American fan that wasn't a 100 Thieves fan. All Team Liquid fans, TSM, Cloud9, every single fan got behind the 3 North American players. Impact, basically an honorary North American player.
Yeah.
And inspired, whatever, right? Like it's like it's It's so hard to beat 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves would have to just absolutely be the way better team to even win that finals, right?
Mhm.
So I think mentality had a big part in it. I think I mean, he's been in the scene for a long time, right? Since like
Yeah.
2016. This guy has always had issues since he was a mid laner of being clutch in the right moments, right? This guy is notorious for choking the most awkward plays in the most important times. So it's a little bit back, and I don't
Yeah.
know, like the whole bot lane of 100 Thieves collapsed. Abadage played really terribly, and Kevin said himself that he didn't mind the picks. Dude, just like, what are you doing game one? You give over Jinx Ornn? Are you freaking kidding me? It's like you
Hmm.
just want to
They
lose
want to lose.
momentum you want to lose momentum in the series, right? Why would you ever give Jinx Ornn to the team that only plays Jinx Ornn in your first game and then get stomped by it? Like, good God, is that bad? Just like, even if you think you can counter it draft wise, it's just bad, like, game sense idea. Like, don't give EG the two picks that caused them to pentakill Team Liquid, right? Like, just, oh my god,
Yeah.
just don't do it. Like, this is all just sports psychology, and I feel like 100 Thieves just epically failed on all that fronts. Like, they mental boomed themselves. They opted into mental booming themselves. So I think 100 Thieves played absolutely awful. If we want to look at obviously how LCS is ranked, Team Liquid is third. But if we want to look at how good are they beating the best team, Team Liquid was so clearly better at
Yeah.
beating EG than 100 Thieves. I mean, neither of them took a game off, right? But
Right.
at least Team Liquid got close to taking a couple games.
Well,
Every
Liquid
single
won
100
the first time they played against each other.
and
Yeah.
I don't
yeah,
know
Team
what, a
Liquid
lot of
won
people
the
are
first
forgetting
time.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's whatever. Honestly, when you have a team like EG, right? Every game they're improving, every series they're improving. So, I mean,
Sure.
sure, you like, yeah, that happened. But like for 100 Thieves, it's just a complete disrespect and like, are you guys even playing the game? Like, I get you're playing like League of Legends, but are you playing the sport? Are you playing the enemy team? And they weren't. They didn't play EG. They thought they could counter a draft, but a team is more than their champions in their draft. A team and the game itself, League of Legends, is so defined by your will, your personality, your like just the way you posture, your mentality. Like League of Legends, as much as a calculated game and how many numbers there are, it's almost entirely about what your personality is, how much mentality you have in that game. And I think people forget that, right? Like, God, don't give Jinx Ornn over. That's just stupid.
Yeah,
So
it does kind of seem like, and again, when you're the winner, right, like of the finals and you kind of get a bye on the first day, right, or whatever, you're just waiting there. It does have to like, I don't know, like, is it an advantage or disadvantage to not play that first day? Because, like you said, when EG won, I mean, it was a momentum shift, not just for that series, but for that weekend. And almost like if you're 100 Thieves walking in and you already know that the other team has kind of got the support of the fans in that stadium, that kind of sucks. You know what I mean? But, and you're right with it being such a big factor. I think that definitely played a huge part of it. And I don't know what to think now, because 100 Thieves during the whole regular season was kind of this team that were like, okay, they don't show up. Then playoffs came around, they showed up. But then what we saw this past weekend was just more of what we saw before, which doesn't make any sense and kind of leaves me scratching my head. So we'll have to see what happens there. Obviously, for the split, there were a lot of, well, I would say there was two bright spots, Someday and Closer, even though they didn't perform the best this series. So I think that, at least those two were the bright spots. Hopefully they could fix some of the issues that they're having. Maybe it's time for Huhi to retire. I'm not sure. But here's what I want to do. By the way, it's also pretty funny that they had the same exact run that G2 had it is so much of a coincidence. It's like hard to believe that it's a coincidence, right? Like, what is happening? Who's match fixing here? Because it was so good. But anyways,
who he is.
That's what, there it is. He's got some kind of like weird
100%.
side bet going on. Yeah. All right. So here's what I want to do. Let's look ahead a little bit, because at the time of this recording, like, we just saw a Reddit rumor, and we were talking about Cloud9 last week and what they might have to do to move forward, and we had our thoughts there. We won't go into it now, so if you wanted to listen to the last episode, see what we said about that. But interesting today is on Reddit, there's supposedly sources saying that Fudge possibly could go back to the top lane, Then C9 might recruit a mid laner like Jensen or something, or even their academy mid laner, not sure. And then Zven, who they still have, by the way, might role swap to support Berserker since they had so many support issues. So the reason I bring this up is, one, we could speculate on that, but two, and when EG wins, it is not only significant because they're got these 3 North American, first NA mid laner in how many years, right? To win that was all significant, but it's also significant because of the org that won it. Evil Geniuses, 100 Thieves. There was no TSM, Team Liquid, or C9 in that top 2, right? And the fact that EG is one, 100 Thieves is one, and we're looking at these new types of rosters, these young players being developed with veterans compared to like the old guards of like Team Liquid just buying all these top tier talent. And they mentioned this as well on JLXP, and it's interesting because moving forward, how do you construct teams now? Because generally the consensus in NA was like, well, we're just gonna have the super teams up here with all the money, and the rest down here, good luck. You're gonna have to just develop your players and hope for the best. Well, look what EG has been doing that. They've spent, I'd say mid-tier amount of the money, but they're also building their roster with young NA talent, and look, they've won. And so moving forward, I'm wondering what teams do, and this kind of ties into C9 now, since they are looking to what looks like, kind of rebuild or structure a little bit for summer split. So let me get your thoughts on the whole source thing, kind of your thoughts on roster building for summer or just in the future, now that EG's kind of set a precedent with, hey, we can win with rookie talent and some pros too. So let me get your thoughts on that.
So quick thought, a lot of communities talk about how we should have always believed in NA talents and all this stuff. Honestly, we should have always believed in good NA talents. Vulcan, always believed in him. I don't think anyone was ever saying he was terrible, right? Or saying he was not world class. And Danny and JoJo, they might not have even been the best players on their team per se, but they were definitely more than good enough to build a team around, right? And they are growing, so that there's the upside, right? So I think we should be investing in NA talent, and EG did it. And there are other teams that have been trying, right? But I think this will be one of the first times where you have something very tangible you can point to your investor or to whoever, and say we are starting X or Y 17-year-old, 18-year-old NA player. General Sniper gets old enough to play in LCS. We are starting him over. I think he's a top winner, so over Someday, who's retiring at the time. Why are we doing this? Because look, EG just destroyed all these super expensive, super veteranship rosters, right? And we still need veterans too, right? We'll have Impact, or not Impact. We'll have Closer at the time probably still be there. FBI will still be there in 100 Thieves. Let's start General Sniper. We need some young blood for that raw skill, right? But we need to build around it. And I think we'll start seeing more high prospect NA talents trickling in. We won't see that many, right? Because it still takes time. But finally, you have an example you can point to. That's hey, they spent less and they beat us, or they beat not necessarily us. They beat all these other top teams who spent $8 million, $10 million, whatever.
Yeah.
So here we go. As for the C9 thing, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just gonna assume it's true. If I assume it's true, C9's a joke.
I agree. I agree.
We have systems. Trust us. And then they're just talking BS. I will give them credit. They're like CL in a way, right? They will make moves that they think will best get them success internationally, and they generally do get success internationally. I still don't give them credit for that. However, stop feeding us BS. It's not, your systems are not that great, man. You literally kicked out the MVP, if this is the case, right? Unless he's going mid lane, which I don't think is happening. I think Summit checked. That would be hilarious, but I think Summit checked out. I think he's going home, I'm pretty sure they're hey, I want to go watch MSI. And they're oh yeah, sure, and then never comes back. I think Zven to support is a good idea. I think that Zven was always he always wanted to be engaging, even if he was, Ezreal in the Baron pit, right? He always wanted to be forward, and he's got the grinding mindset, right? I think that support is the role that has the most success for players who were decent or even very good before, and wanted to switch, right? Afro way back when was really good as an AD carry. He switched to support. He was Core JJ was decent-ish as AD carry, right? Became a world-class support. He was pretty at the end, but it was at some point pretty decent as a mid laner, top 4, right? Top 3. He became top 2, top 3 as a support. I think this is fine. I think that Zen has a mind for the game. Him and Berserker probably will be a much better duo. And I'm more than happy with that, as long as they can communicate. It's weird. So we're keeping Berserker, but no one speaks Korean on the team. that's the thing that's like really strange to me. But maybe they're just gonna have an AD carry who doesn't speak Korean English that well, like Piglet, and he's just gonna carry. And he's he's young, he's hungry, he's extremely good.
What does
Yeah,
the
he's really
AD
good.
carry need to say, right? I'm dead. Nocturne's
Yeah.
ulting me. I can't see anything. All right, cool. That's all you need to say.
Peel me.
There's no words you can say could save you in those situations. So like,
Right? So who cares?
as far as I'm concerned, I think that's actually pretty good. As for the mid laner, Copy is the academy mid laner. I think he's one of the top mid laners in the academy from what I could tell eye test wise. I don't actually know if he's the top, but he's pretty good.
Who
And
did
if
you
Jensen
say?
goes back,
Copy.
Copy.
I think that's their mid laner, right? Am I
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
Yeah, I
the
think you're
academy
right.
mid
Okay.
laner. Yeah,
Mhm.
that
They
was
didn't
the
make it as
rumor.
far as 100 Thieves and TL made it to the final, so
Yeah.
of Academy. So I recognize those names better. Anyways, I think Copy would be fine. I think Jensen would be hilarious, right? Like with all the history he's had with that org, him going back would be an absolute riot. But I think it'd also be super hype. People like haven't talked about Jensen that much this year in the big community. If he went back to C9, we would be so hyped for the C9 Jensen versus Bjergsen on TL again. Like I'm pretty sure.
Oh man, yeah.
And also, I think he would be
And
better
then
than
JoJo
JoJo
smacks
and better
all of
than
them.
Bjergsen. Oh,
Yeah. We got a
If
battle
JoJo
for
just won
second
MSI,
versus
he'll
third
come
place.
back.
JoJo's smacking everybody. Who
hey,
cares?
Yeah.
but that would be hype, right? Because then there's no
Yeah.
asterisk. Like, there's no like, hey, the top mid laners from last split aren't here anymore. So that's why you're de facto first, right? Because we gave Bjergsen de facto first for a while, right? But that's not as hype
Yeah.
as like you're fighting it out.
Yeah.
But Bjergsen still hasn't showed up to play LCS all year, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's still
I
hard
just-
to tell JoJo's the best when we don't even have the GOAT playing.
I just wish
Mhm.
C9 would be more transparent with their fans. Stop treating them like they're idiots, right? Like, like we have systems, trust us, and then you don't use any systems. All you do is just like let the players do the drafting for the next couple weeks
Yeah.
and just
Maybe
try
that
to
is the
skill check
system,
everyone.
yeah.
I mean,
I
it
mean,
is a system, but I don't
Maybe
think that's what
that's the
C9 used to
system.
do.
If you want to support, why don't you just try and get Isla?
Yeah, that
I
would be
mean,
nice.
that's another option too.
I mean, but everyone was basically saying, I mean, he was the second best support in the league, only because, and he wasn't the best, is because Core JJ is the person he's subbing in for. If
Yeah.
Core JJ's, Isla's basically waiting until he can sign to another team, or for Core JJ to retire. So if you're gonna offer him a spot on a team who's generally usually really good, probably take it. And we've
Yeah.
also seen that Cloud9 in the most recent years has not been afraid of spending the extra penny.
Yeah.
I think if they're looking for support, Isla's your move.
Would they have to buy Jensen from TL2? Is TL still contracting
Yes.
Jensen on the bench, right? So
Yes.
I don't know if TL would want to give up both Jensen and Isla at the same time. I think
That was
the best
exactly my
location
point,
is
yeah.
C9, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I was gonna make that exact point. I actually think Ayla would be Ayla. I have no idea. It would be great for C9, right? If I'm Steve though, I'd be like, no. Can't have
Yeah.
it. Sorry.
You can pick one at max,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, not even pick one. You don't get any. Like, I mean, this is what I would do if I was Steve. And we've seen Carlos pull this shit, right?
Yeah.
Dude, TLL just ended third place. And C9 ended fourth place, right? They're fighting for the last world spot. If I'm Steve,
Mhm.
I make the buyout for Jensen and Ayla like 20 million and be like, you want it, you gotta buy it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm not giving you crap because I'm trying to make it to Worlds this year. Because guess what? There are two teams in place higher than above me. So for my perspective, I mean Cloud9's screwed if they if they try to if the Zven experiment doesn't work out. Which honestly, guys, like Zven has to get so good and so lucky to break into Worlds, right? Like, what kind of improvement are we actually looking for? I brought this
Yeah.
up in the last podcast, right? If you're gonna make roster changes mid-split, what is your goal as Cloud9? Because if your goal is to make it to Worlds this year, I think you are making the absolute wrong choices. Now, if you're willing to sack this year and say, hey, we're not gonna make it to Worlds, fine. Put Zven in support, see if he gets good. Give it a shot next year. Maybe you can win some stuff next year. But like, if you put in Zven as support this year and Fudge top lane this year, like you have to compete against TL, EG, and 100 Thieves to try to take that last world spot. It just does
Yeah.
not seem realistic to me at all. So I am just curious what their mentality is. I can respect if they are okay with sacking this year. Let's like, hey, we dropped the ball this year with our weird Summit LS experiment. That's fine. We have a lot of fans and a lot of fan faith. We can just wait till next year. But if they're trying to like make it to Worlds this year, I think they are making all the wrong choices. So that's my comment on that. With in terms of like just rosters and development
Mhm.
in general, I think that everybody's super hyped on buying North American talent, but LCS has a very big tendency to have super short memories, right? So
Hmm.
if EG, all right, if they bomb out of MSI, there's a lot of people who will probably be like, that's okay, right? Bunch of rookies went, they bombed
Yeah.
out. You're playing against G2, T1, and RNG, whatever. Give you some credit. That's fine,
Yeah.
right? Even if you start kind of sucking during the regular season of summer, that's fine. MSI, right? You're tired. You were doing terribly
Yeah.
in the regular season last split. They'll still get credit. But if EG doesn't go to Worlds, even with their rookies, everybody was saying spring doesn't matter. Spring split doesn't matter. They fluked it, right? 100 Thieves TL, they just needed time to warm up, right? All these excuses are going to come out the woodworks. And then all of a sudden, at the end of this year, if EG doesn't go to Worlds, we're going to be saying it was a fluke, right? Maybe we shouldn't. Org's going to be like, look at this, right? Yeah, they won spring, but they didn't go to Worlds, which is actually more important for us.
Mm.
So it is very dependent on how the rest of the year works out. If EG, I'm pretty sure if EG doesn't go to Worlds with their two rookies, the entire argument and mentality of how hype you are about buying and training NA talent is going to completely disappear. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm afraid of, and I think that just like understanding and being in the scene for years, that's what's going to happen, right? Orgs
Yeah.
and players and the community have such short memory spans.
I
So
think it's because, to because I have similar thoughts, and that was a really good point, by the way. But I think it's because League is such on a short life cycle as opposed to like the rhythm of the game, even though it does span throughout majority of the year. It seems so fast where, again, I'll reference basketball where you get like 82 games in a regular season, or baseball where it's as like, I don't even know, like twice as much as that. Football, not so much, but like with basketball and sports that have a lot of games, you get a better feel. And I feel like there's more longevity because the rhythm of that game it seems longer because there's just more games. And I think part of the reason, like, again, we used to do best of threes. I thought that was awesome. But for whatever viewership, money making, it wasn't the best way. So this is why I hate best of ones again, because, talking about like regular season, who cares when you get to the real thing, which is series, like best of series, like that's where the true, like, people are unlocked. I mean, as we saw, G2, like they weren't the greatest in the regular season, in the regular split, but look at them during playoffs. So to go off with what you're saying is that I think people do have a short life cycle, memory, as far as like, oh, you did that great thing. We celebrate you for like, 5-6 months. And then if you don't produce anything after that, like, oh, well, right. So, I mean, to comment on, I feel the same way. I think that, as a fan base, like if we really want North American talent to prosper, then we have to change that way of thinking. Like we have, like, this is another reason why I give 100 Thieves credit. They've stuck with that roster for so long, and even when they were in Golden Guardians, like like they stuck together, and that's a rare thing to see in League nowadays. Like other than the Team Liquid that won like 4 splits or whatever, right? But you don't see that much anymore, right?
Yeah.
They're like together for a split. Even not even a whole year, maybe just a split, and then they're gone because it wasn't like it didn't translate into instant winning. So I think that I'm glad that EG won, and I'm really hoping for their success, because if they don't win, then maybe it just sticks to this whole like we just buy the best talent, we just import the talent, because we've proven that's what gets us to Worlds, not developing our NA domestic talent or whatever. And so that's why I think teams should hopefully, invest like EG and we've seen 100 Thieves do, and have this combination of, rookies, but then also veterans who can kind of guide them through some of these things like nerves or whatever it is that's happening. One thing I will say, though, is that I think that language is still a huge aspect of things, because like you said, I don't know what the issues were completely at C9, but you got 2 Korean speakers there. That I'm sure didn't help the fact that they don't speak the same language. At least on Evil Geniuses, you got people who can all speak English really well. And so I think that helps, even though you have veterans and you have rookies, they can communicate properly. So I think that works out really well. So what are we going to say, Mitchell?
Well, I actually really like the way you put it, is that like not that like you said like we need to change how people think about the things, like not have such a short attention span. Like
Yeah.
the way I was approaching like my comment was like, if EG they don't go to Worlds, or they don't do X, Y, and Z, then all these people are going to forget, and then all of a sudden next year we're gonna hire maybe the same amount of North American
Yeah.
talent and still import a ton of pros. But I like the idea of like not this is what's gonna happen, so EG needs to go to Worlds, blah 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 blah. No, that doesn't matter. Like even if EG completely bottoms out next split, we should change the way we think and not just have such short attention spans. Like
Yeah.
it is actually like a product of our whole ecosystem in LCS being totally wrong. Like it's true. Like we do need to change how we think as like a whole community, right? Like not have such short attention spans, not crap on every single player when they do anything wrong at
Yeah,
all, and then
exactly.
treat any player who does something right like a god,
Yeah.
and then turn around and stab them in the back as soon as they mess up again, right? Like,
Yep.
so it is this mentality of like, God, we're so vicious and we're
Yeah.
so like, we hate literally everything about LCS. We're the worst region.
Yeah.
We only import like washed up pros. Even our North American talent. Sure, we can win and beat a bunch of old people in LCS, but if we don't do well internationally, it's not worth it,
Yeah.
right? It's like all these things are so toxic, and I agree. Yeah, like that's the actual point is that the split and this win that EG had is not about like them making a statement for themselves. It's like we need to change all of our how we
Yeah.
think because it's holding us back as a region so far. And honestly, it's killing our entertainment too, right? Because you see EG like Vulcan and JoJo throwing out a ton of trash talk. God, they get so much hate
I
from
know.
NA people who
Relax.
are like, "What are you doing, man? You want trash talk? You want a spicy region?
know.
You want us to like be entertaining, and then you go and just crap on people for saying anything interesting."
Twitter's
at
a
all.
terrible
Like,
thing, man, and Reddit.
it's so awful. Like
Yeah.
JoJo is literally saying, like, I'm gonna send Fudge back to top lane, and he gets like all this hate, and it's like he didn't even say anything that bad, right?
Yeah.
The amount
It's
of trash
funny.
talk we have is so basic, it's
Yeah.
so lame, and it's still like I'll take anything at this point. But God, like our community is so vitriolic, like man. So I do agree. Like we have this medium of a podcast, right, where we can try to change what viewers watch us. We can try to influence as much as we can, and yeah, this should be the sentiment that you take away from today and this
Yeah.
weekend and LCS and all the other podcasts that are big fans of LCS is, hey, we as a community, you, your friends, the people you talk to, stop them from shitting on NA constantly.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We're just gonna keep going to the same cycle, and you're still gonna hate it, right?
Yeah.
If you stop hating on it for a second, maybe things will change for the better.
Preach it, brother. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. I would say like I think it's like largely because of how NA interacts on Reddit. Like Reddit is
Yeah.
and Twitter to some extent. Like this is where a lot of this breeds. Because if you talk to just regular fans, like you see how all these people were cheering for EG. Like when they're shit talking, right? On stage or even in the post game interview, right? People weren't gonna be like, "Oh, why are you talking shit after the game, right? Like you should have done it before," which they were doing it before. You guys
Yeah.
were just shitting on them for it. Okay. I won't want to like straw man too much. My point is like it just feels like there because of how the community interacts with each other, how Reddit has just continued to just talk down to NA for so long. Like it just sucks for them. Like Team Liquid made to MSF finals, beat the world champs, right? The reigning world champs, and they are never given credit. They say that NA has never done anything internationally, and I'm just like, what do you mean? G2 couldn't beat IG, SKT
Yeah.
couldn't beat IG. They were 9-1 in MSI group stage that year, and Liquid beat it, and we still never give them credit because remember what happened? Because they lost in the finals, right? They lost
Yeah.
to G2 in a pretty one-sided game. They choked it, and then they were never allowed to live it down. Like all those superstars were just shit on forever, right? Like even now, they're just like, remember when you got destroyed by G2? Like, is this how you're supposed to treat your stars? Is this how you're supposed to build up your stars? Like, why are these other regions able to like always have such high viewership or even higher? Like LFL is not going to Worlds, right? Or Superliga is not going to Worlds, but there's so many fans. This is just how sports work, guys. You can
Yeah.
have fans without always winning. If you're
Yep.
the popularity of your region is only predicated on being the absolute number one, like I'm sorry to tell you, like it's not happening, right? It's very unlikely. And really quickly, I also want to mention a super story from this weekend. Zeta Division in Valorant is a Japanese team. Japan has never won a map. Like that means like
Oh,
in a best of
gosh.
3 or best of 5, they've never won once. Japan's
Yeah.
never won once in any tournament ever. Zeta Division against Dragon X, like Kingzone Dragon X, Longzhou Dragon X, that Korean team, the team that they scrimmed and learned everything about Valorant from, right? They lost 12 or 13-2 and 13-3 to the Korean team on map 1 of the tournament. Went to the lower bracket and won every match all the way to top 3 and almost got to top 2.
Oh my god, lower bracket's so OP. What?
Yeah, like they beat Dragon X, the team that they only took 5 out of 26 round or 31 rounds on. They beat Dragon X later on in the upper bracket. And you want to know what the fans were saying once they won their first map? They're like, you guys did so well. Like, we're so proud of you. We only wanted one map from you guys. Like, all we wanted was for you guys to do your best, right? And the fans were always behind them. They had literally hundreds of thousands of views from Japan alone.
That's awesome.
That momentum, that positive energy just carried them all the way. Like, I wasn't say they're bad players, right? But they literally lost 13-2. That's like losing an 18-minute game or a 20-minute game in League, right? And then they come back later on in the tournament and just beat the team that taught them how to play Valorant and destroy them in the same tournament. And this is because the community was, for the most part, behind them and pushing them and being positive. Like, hey, you guys did your best. We're just happy that you're there. We're happy that you guys are trying your best, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why can't we even be half of that? That's all I'm asking.
I mean, I just want to say, Kevin, are you okay? Because there's 2 episodes in a row you've gotten into it.
He's into it.
Mean,
no,
I'm into it because I'm into NA. Like, I also give him crap too. Like, as a fan. But I'm just sick of watching okay, this week especially triggered me because JoJo would post shit talk, right? And I think personally, I think JoJo's shit talk is actually spicier than Doubles. I don't think that everyone else's trash is if you put that into basketball or any other sport, it's so basic. It's kindergarten talk, but it's good, right? Because no one else is doing it. No.
JoJo's is good.
It since he did it day 1, and then he took all of regular split. He didn't tweet much, and then he tweeted in the playoffs, right? But I think it's really good, and
I love
people are just giving him crap, and they're just or Vulcan, why are you being so disrespectful to Closer? We don't even know if they're friends or not. We're just all I know is that
not even that disrespectful, man. It was not. Go back,
No. What he was saying to Closer was he's saying that I'm glad I get to finally shut Closer up. He's not even good. So
that's not even that was bad of trash talk.
That's a little. That's pretty harsh, I will say, but I think it's hilarious.
I don't think that's even that. To say someone is not even that good is the most I don't even. How do you even take offense to that? I get if you attack them in a way where it's the specific thing that you did is super boosted, blah blah blah. But just saying someone's not that good is I don't know. It's still a snooze.
How is that different? How is that different from saying you're trash?
Yeah,
it's the same.
No,
thing.
it's not that. It's the saying that's the best jungler in playoffs is pretty trashy talking. That's when you lose to Doinb and say he wasn't even top 4, he wasn't even the top 4 mid laners or top 8 mid laners at Worlds. You just look really weird there, right? That's all I'm saying. And it is spicy.
But I mean, even the art. Yeah. Well, the art is in the words itself, because even though you could say "let's trap," you're trash. It's how you word it that makes it clever. Like saying that instead of saying "I'm just going to beat Fudge," I'm going to beat the crap out of him in lane. He said, "I'm sending Fudge back to top lane." That's funny. That is what did he say about Chovy? Where he was I guess he's never. What did he say? I don't want to say. Kevin, what did he say?
Chovy, but I actually won a title.
Yeah, exactly.
That stuff's funny.
That stuff is good. That is good trash talking. And that's what I mean. I think the community, again, Twitter and Reddit are terrible things. I myself have to just stop looking at things sometimes, because even myself, I get triggered sometimes, right? And I don't want to be that way, but sometimes people are just dumb. And it's kind of the same way in League, right? But to kind of tie this back into the roster thing, I want to talk about my thoughts on C9 because that's what we were talking about. But I will say that, going this direction, and since C9 does look like they're trying to make some changes, I hate the fact that they're putting Fudge back on top lane. I know a lot of people are happy because they say he's a better top laner. But again, I mentioned this last time. And you guys are right. He definitely has performed better in top lane. But the fact that we took, a split to put him in mid lane, and it didn't work. I'm just hoping he hasn't lost too much or hasn't, missed out on some training and experience that he could have had if they just kept him top lane. I honestly think that this isn't fair to him as a player to keep moving him around like this. I mean, if they are making him the face of the franchise, then maybe they're like, hey, Fudge, you're not going anywhere, but I think we want to move you back top lane. Then okay, whatever. But I'm just hoping that it doesn't derail them too much. And I'm still on our I'm still strongly feel about how we agreed kind of on the take last week that I wouldn't change the players. I'd just change the coaching because I think it's short-term memory, man. It's like, okay, like, but not too long ago, you guys were smurfing on the entire league. Like, really, like, unless it's really like Summit saying I'm out, I'm done, or whatever. If one of the sides is like not wanting to have, nothing you could do about that. But if everybody's kind of like still on board, then don't replace the roster or don't change the roster. Like, try just changing the the coaching or the strategies or the draft or the identity. I don't know, many different things. So I just wanted to say that about C9. Whatever they decide, nothing is confirmed yet, but I'm hoping that these rumors are not true. Personally, like maybe Fudge going back top. Okay, actually no, I'd like Fudge to stay mid, honestly, because I don't want Summit to go yet. Not yet, I think it's just too soon. This guy was the MVP because he deserved it for that short amount of time. But anyways, so is there anything else? Because, I was like, oh man, this might be a shorter episode because there's, no games next week. But then here we go. I just feel proud. I will say after this episode, I feel way prouder to be a North American representative. I think you guys talked it up really well. What were you going to say, Alistair?
We should probably mention the patch.
Oh, yeah. So what we'll probably do is this then, because we have the patch for MSI has dropped. It's huge. So what we're going to do is when it gets closer to MSI, we will do a preview of the MSI games, and we will also go over that patch since it'll be closer to the game time. It'll be fresher, and we can kind of talk about what we think we'll see in the meta, because we have been on the same patch for quite a while now in the playoffs. So it'll be good to get some fresh stuff in there and talk about all of that. But other than that, was there anything else you guys wanted to mention before we wrap it up?
I think, I would just like to say that, I'm really happy that this weekend happened. I think it's something the region really needed, but it's just a start. Like, this is like a spark that lights a fire that is not fully blown yet, right? Like, this is just the beginning. So,
Hopefully.
hopefully, right? What we can do as fans and as people is just keep supporting the ideas of North American talent, right? Because, like, dude, like, do you think it matters if we send Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, or EG to whatever with whatever roster? And we're not going to win Worlds. Honestly, we're just not. So it's like, what does it matter if you send your $10 million roster or your $500,000 roster, right? Like, I don't know. So think about that and try to support as much as you can without being toxic. And finally, I think looking just a little preview to MSI, I think we can actually have some hope for EG. I'm not saying that they're going to win or anything, or they're even going to blow our minds, but I think we can make top 4 pretty solidly. I think we will get to the best of 5 series. Hey, we might get 3-0'd, right? But we'll do better than C9 did with Perks last year. Yeah. And I actually think that this year, just with the way the bracket's kind of set up and the way our group is set up right now, I think we definitely make top 4, which is just
that's exciting.
I think it's exciting for our rookies
to
get such valuable stage time, right? They're going to jump to another level, scrimming some of the best teams and players, right? They basically get to play almost a best of 5 against G2. Yeah. They get to play 4 games straight against G2. What kind of think about the amount of valuable practice that's going to be on 2 rookies. Yeah. So I think we should be really excited for that. I think that in a world where things kind of go maybe according to plan, where we actually do top 4 as EG at MSI, and then they end up going to Worlds at the end of this year, I think the future is bright for LCS, right? And I do think that if that stuff doesn't happen, it is up to us as the fans to pressure our orgs to say, hey, I know maybe our NA rookies kind of dropped the ball at the end of the year, but still remember the great things we did. Yeah. And
all right, let's game plan. Game plan. We're gonna go just spam posts on Reddit, only positive things about the LCS during MSI.
That's how you get shadow banned.
That's how we get. Yeah, that's how you get shadow
we don't do that here.
We don't do that here. But so yeah, I totally agree, and I'm hoping. I feel like really North America is rallying behind EG. We saw that this weekend, and that's perfect for heading into MSI. I'm hoping we can continue the positive like vibes and encouragement for this young roster. I mean, mostly young roster, right? Because I do want them to do well. So, all right. Well, that was good stuff. Kevin, did you have a last thought?
Yeah, real quick. Another thing I want to add is like we also should have organizations like hold themselves accountable. They keep telling us to trust them. Like, believe us, we think Fudge is the best mid, or we think he'll be really good. And then he just leaves. Like,
Yeah.
if you really think that he would actually be really good, why are you putting him back top after a split? He
Yeah.
didn't even play poorly per se. Like, he was learning, right? You could see him markedly improve until playoffs, right? Where more or less the team just kind of collapsed. So I don't really necessarily blame him individually. Like, how am I supposed to trust you that Winsome is good? Like, if I like, let's say I'm a regular fan who doesn't, play a lot or like,
Mm-hmm.
have a developed eye test, right? If I had to only trust like what everyone's saying, like, oh yeah, Winston's really good. Like, look, him and Berserker, like, look at their stats. They're like so good. I'm like, okay, sure. But I'm looking at this guy like he's been 8th place. Like, I've been crapping on him all split, and now he's gone. But if I'm just like a regular fan, maybe I got blindsided by like him getting benched for all playoffs. Not even when they were losing did he get a chance to go on stage. That tells
That's
me
just
that they think
disrespect.
he's worse than Isles, right? That
Mm-hmm.
tells me that
Yeah.
he's worse than his academy support. That tells me he's worse than Zven when I hear rumors about Zven going to support. To me, like, I'm like, this guy is fresh out of amateur. At least develop him.
Yeah.
Like, you have Berserker. He's
Yeah.
still Korean. He didn't change nationality just because he's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really want orgs to stop lying to us. I mean, maybe that's just the case in every esport, every sport that the orgs will do that. But like, I feel like at least they usually get more of a fair shot than 2 weeks for the coach, and then one split for the roster that was
Yeah.
second place in the regular season, had like an 8-win streak, lots of good signs on there, and they just disband. They could
Yeah.
like 18-0 next split, and I would still call them. I would still say that it was irresponsible, per se.
No,
Like they.
I hate that. I hate that whole like. I mean, they give like an amateur player a split, and he doesn't do great, and he's in a terrible, toxic environment. It's like, what the hell do you expect, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely hate that. I also hate just like not giving amateur players or newer players a full year or just a full run. Like what Mad Lions is about to do to Reeker, their mid laner, and
Oh
just
my
replace him with
god.
Niski is just like, I mean, he didn't even play that bad. All of his teammates were actually supporting him in interviews saying, "Hey, I mean, no one's just gonna magically be a god in their first split. People just get lucky, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
things click, and it's the right meta for them." But
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
God, did Reeker not even play that bad? I mean,
Yeah.
Winsome, yeah, he didn't play great, but like, you clearly saw that his issues were not just his issues. It was a team-wide issue. So
For
I hate
sure.
all
Yeah,
these
and
like
people
knee-jerk
forget
reactions.
Perks, Jensen, Caps were all anywhere from mediocre to garbage in their first split. Perks, like the meme about like my Rise is bad, my Azir is worse or whatever. You guessed right, MG2 Perks. That was like real. He was like kind of a choker in his first split. Caps was like kind of underwhelming in his first split or first year in general, and then he got extremely good as like,
Mm-hmm.
you saw him markedly just gain momentum, right? Vetio, who is the MVP of last split for this split of LEC, was also like kind of like whatever last year. He's not a rookie. He actually played last year and he got amazing. Reeker was supposed to be the MVP, or not MVP. Like a lot of people were saying like he would be the best rookie, right? And he didn't do like amazing, but he didn't do awful. And they're just benching him. We cannot like EU's a little better about it, but we cannot just put this precedent now because like it's just so much pressure. You could be a JoJo PM, but let's say your org's not supportive. Yeah, you might just be scared of getting
Yeah.
benched. Like, oh shoot, I made a mistake. I guess my career's over.
Yeah, like imagine Jojo Pune on TSM this year, right? Like we would just lose him. That
Yeah.
generation talent would just disappear.
Yeah.
Like he would
Yeah,
just not perform at all.
Yeah,
So
imagine if the MVP was like Junkling for that org too. Like that would be
yeah.
that would be such a waste.
That'd be
Yeah,
such
yeah.
a waste.
By the way, yeah, TSM Speaker is long. And Speaker is like, I'm out of here, man. Get me to a new org, and
Yeah.
get out of there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
How
think
long does
we've.
it take for me to
I
cash
think.
out on my?
I think we've hit a lot of good things because accountability from the orgs. It's kind of roster development. Us as a community. I think there's. Honestly, I think these conversations have been there this whole time. But again, with EG winning this thing, I think it's really brought it into the forefront because it's kind of changed the status quo, right? Like I said, it's very different. First NA mid, first NA mid to win since how long? And like, we the whole, buying all imports compared to we have 3 NA, talents here and, all of this stuff that's just going on at the same time. So I think it's a lot of good, like deep stuff that needs to just be ingrained in the ecosystem as a whole for League if we really want this sport to keep developing in a good way, because right now I think there has been a lot of just kind of disenfranchised fans like who feel betrayed by orgs, not really knowing what's happening. And I think it is a nice momentum shift to maybe see a breath of fresh air. So that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks again to my awesome co-hosts, Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair. Y'all always provide some really good stuff. But until next time, we won't have an episode next week, but we'll look at when MSI is and then do a preview episode there and also talk about the patch. But until next time, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.